today I'm going to show you how to make your own sourdough bread, including how to make a sourdough starter. So let's get started. So today I wanted to show you how to make your own yeast at home, otherwise known as sourdough starter. So they've been making this type of yeast and bread for centuries. It's the traditional way of baking bread. And my sourdough starter has been alive since January. It's a living thing, and sometimes it explodes out of the jar in the middle of the night. To make your own sourdough starter at home, all you need is a jar, and all you do is every day for 7 days you feed your starter.
Day 1, mix 100 grams of bread flour with 100 grams of water, then cover loosely with a tea towel and elastic band.
So to start it off, you add in 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water. Mix them together. I usually use a butter knife. Make sure all of the flour is combined, and then you leave it at room temperature.
Don't forget to loosely cover your starter to stop the baddies getting in. Days 2 to 7. Repeat the process at a similar time every day. Discard excess starter or use it to make a delicious recipe.
The next day, around about the same time, you feed it again. And then you continue to do that for 7 days, and what you'll find over that time is, that's just my cat being daft in the corner. What you'll find over that time is it'll start getting a bit pongy. So this sourdough starter, including the name, it smells very sour. You don't want it to be like vinegar, but you do want it to have a sour pong. So when you're feeding your sourdough starter, your jar will get full quite quickly. So what you want to do is discard some of that starter. I usually just discard it before I feed it again. And now you don't have to put that sourdough starter in the bin. What I like to do is, I've learned a little trick online, which is you can make a little sourdough pancake. So all you need is a frying pan, a little bit of oil in the bottom. You tip some of your discarded starter into there, fry it up. It's a delicious, crispy sourdough pancake. Just add a little bit of salt, some herbs on top. And we've even done a pizza version where you add some tomato sauce and things like that. So don't throw away your sourdough starter. And you can see there just now it's really bubbly. That means it's alive. And you can do a test to check whether your sourdough starter is alive. So this test is really simple. You just get a bit of your bubbly starter that's been left, and then you just pop it in the top of some water. This is called the float test. So your yeast will float on the top. That means it's ready to use. It means it's alive and kicking. So this is a finished sourdough starter, and all I do is feed this once a week. I keep it in the fridge, or if I'm going to bake a loaf of bread, I'll get it out of the fridge the night before, feed it, and then leave it out at room temperature, and then it'll be ready to use in the morning. So for this sourdough bread recipe, what you're going to need is your starter that you've been feeding for a week. You need 200 grams of this. You need 600 grams of white bread flour, 400 ml of water, warm water, some salt, the same as last time, and that's everything. So into the bowl goes 600 grams of bread flour. Just nearly exactly right, one off there. Look at that. 400 ml of water, so I like to do a warmish water. Lots of sourdough bread makers would say that you shouldn't take the warm water from the tap, but I'm not that strict. 400 ml of water goes in on top of there. 200 grams of your sourdough starter that you've left after feeding overnight. On top of that you want to add in your salt. I'm using fine sea salt, and we need 12 grams of that. This stage is just about getting your mixture together. So you notice this is a lot runnier than a traditional loaf with just fast action dried yeast. But I think that makes it a little bit more exciting when you're baking with it. It's a bit trickier, a bit more of a challenge. So I tend to just get my hands in at this point, pull the flour and water together. And you can see there that it's really a sticky dough. Stuck to all my fingers. It's very, very different in consistency to just a normal loaf made with baker's yeast. So the next step then is to leave it for 30 minutes to autolyse, which is a fancy word for letting the flour and water bind together. Don't miss this stage out, it's very important, just so the flour and water combines together. So what you want to do now is get your hands in but you're not kneading this bread in the same way that you would knead a normal rustic loaf. Instead, what you're doing is stretching and folding, so picking up some of the dough, stretching it over itself, and keeping going round every time, stretching as much as you can. And you're doing this 12 times, so that's 3, 4, 5. This is all about gluten development, so you're trying to get a good stretch. 8, 9, 12. That's your first stretch and fold done. It's as simple as that. You want to cover your bread back up again.
Leave to rest for 1 hour.
It's time for stretch and fold number 2. It's been 1 hour since our first stretch and fold. Another good tip for this is to wet your hand, so you don't want to be putting more flour into it because you need the consistency to stay sticky. So same again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and last one. Back under to rest for another hour before our third stretch and fold.
Leave to rest for 1 hour. Stretch and fold one more time.
Okay, so it's now been 3 hours since we did our first fold, and since then we've done 2 more folds at hour-long intervals. Take a look at that dough first off. So you can see how the texture's changed, it's much less sticky. So you will need a dough scraper at this stage because the dough is very, very sticky, and you don't really want to put too much flour on. Just a little bit to help you, but a really, really small amount. You want to keep the dough nice and sticky. So what you're doing now is you want to pre-shape your loaf and leave it to rest. So to pre-shape, we're just doing again that stretch and fold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's your pre-shape, just getting it into a ball. Then you're going to leave that again, and the best way to cover it at this point is just to stick your ball back over the top like that. So it's time for our final shape. It's been another 30 minutes. You can see it's sunk and flattened quite a lot. Not too much flour. Then you're lifting it at the top, bringing it half back on itself. Yeah, see that? And then the same the other way. And then you want to flip it. So what you need to do now is just move it using your dough scraper to build some tension across the top. So lift it over and pull it towards yourself. Pull it towards yourself. Pull it towards yourself all the time. You can see how that tension is building on the top every time we do that. Get yourself a proofing basket or just a smaller mixing bowl with a tea towel in it. You want to generously flour inside because you really don't want to have your dough sticking when you come to take it out of here tomorrow, because if that happens it can ruin your beautiful loaf. Another extra coating, and then all you're doing is flipping. Oop! And then you just want to get a little bit of extra flour in around the edges there. Okay, so all you do is leave this in the fridge overnight. So welcome back, it is the morning. I've got my morning hair and no makeup. So welcome to a lovely sunny morning in Katie's house. We've got the oven on just now and a baking stone inside the oven. So if you don't have a baking stone, the point of it is to get it really, really hot before you put the bread on it. If you don't do that, you don't get as good a rise when it gets to the oven, but you can just use the thickest baking tray that you've got and it does the same job. So all we're doing now is flicking our bread. I remember we floured it yesterday to try and stop it sticking. That's been out of the fridge the same length of time the oven has been heating, so it's looking beautiful. You can get a, what's one of them called? A paintbrush, and just get some of the excess flour off because that'll burn in the oven. And then you need some kind of implement to cut the top. This is one of the fancy ones, but it's a cheap one, so it's not actually that good. And then you're cutting down the two edges. One, and then go this side. Two. And then we're putting that in the oven at 230 degrees fan or higher, if it's not fan, for 15 minutes. The important thing is that you watch your oven, don't just stick to my standard rules because it'll be different depending on what oven you've got. And it's ready to come out of the oven. There it is. So you can see it's got a nice crisp top and where I cut it. So we're going to put our loaf, the best bit. I've left it cool for a long, long time. And there you can see, nice and aerated, lovely inside. Do you know what I would have done with this? Left it in the oven for another 5 minutes or even 10 minutes to get a crisper outside. See, outside's a little bit soft on this one. It's a delicious taste. Really beautiful. So there you have it, a sourdough bread. I'd encourage you to try again when it comes to sourdough. It's a really hard bread to get the hang of, but once you do, it becomes second nature. And every single time a sourdough bread comes out of the oven, it's completely different. I probably made only maybe about 10 loaves of sourdough bread so far, and every time it's completely different, the way that it tastes, the crust, the inside, the shape. So it's a really exciting process, and you'll get the hang of it over time. When you can feel the way that the dough is, you'll know whether it's right or not, and your timings in your oven and all of those things, you'll work them out. And then you can move on to other things. So I made sourdough pizzas, we've made sourdough baguettes last week, so you can try different shapes and different types of sourdough process. So thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you again next time.